Brothers and sisters, I'm Jesse with Living Tree Community Foods, and once again, we're in the edible schoolyard of Martin Luther King High School. We've done so many videos here, and rightly so. To us, it's one of the wonders. It is a tribute, a testimonial to what you can do, to what you can accomplish. Here you have about an acre of land which is filled with fruiting trees, vegetables, figs, pears, peaches, nectarines, sweet corn, tomatoes. It's all here, brothers and sisters. The high school kids tend the garden during the day, and the salad greens and vegetables appear in their school lunches. It's truly a wonder. I have to laugh when I think about the public school that I went to in Brooklyn, New York. It was concrete, 20-foot high fences topped with barbed wire. And all concrete, just one great big mass of gray concrete. And here, an edible schoolyard. What wonders we can accomplish. So, I've come to talk today about a tragedy. The tragedy of the epidemic of suicides among nurses here in America. How is it that people who are on the front line in providing health care, the very, very best and finest people that there are suffering mentally and physically to the extent that they are taking their own lives? What seems to be happening is that the frenzied pace, overwork, and ever-rising patient-nurse ratios are leading to burnout and low retention rates for nurses and other health workers. Patients are continually being added to nurses' workloads. Nurses are expected to do more work for no increase in pay or even pay cuts. Understandably enough, they're becoming depressed. It's not only nurses. Suicides are rising in rural America. Part of it is due to the increasing poverty, low incomes, the farm crisis, the effects of the trade war, deindustrialization, and vast amounts of underemployment. This also is a tragedy because family farmers, in my humble opinion, are the pillar of our culture and of these United States. The skyrocketing number of deaths of despair, including deaths from opioid overdoses. It is a cry of a society that has been cut off from its roots. And what are we to think? That life expectancy in these United States has fallen for the last 3 years, though we pay the most per capita for health care than any other country. Let's look deeper. Something else is going on. It is loneliness. Let's ask ourselves, which one of us has a close friend, a brother, a sister, or a buddy upon which we can discuss our innermost concerns, our innermost troubles and exaltations. Such a close companion, buddy, or friend is becoming more and more rare in the late industrial world. Have people ever been so isolated, so distant, and so remote? Witness the silence of the streets. Witness the people crossing highways and roads, hunched over in their cell phones, hunched over in their cell phones, even when crossing the street. Meet the iPhone, iPad, iPod generation. They are the young Americans born after 1995, the first to spend their entire adolescence hunched over a smartphone. They spend more time in front of screens and less time interacting with one another than any other generation. They communicate primarily online through social media or text messages. Is it any wonder that they appear paranoid, that danger seems to lurk at every turn in the form of ideas that challenge their beliefs? Right here at this moment, here in the Bay Area, there's a high school in San Francisco. Are you ready for it? They have a mural of George Washington painted in the 30s, and the kids are complaining about it, and the school board has been deliberating for weeks whether or not to cover it over or to smash it to pieces. George Washington, mind you. But it's not only on school campuses, it's everywhere. An estimated 42 million Americans over the age of 45 suffer from chronic loneliness. More than 25% of the U.S. population live alone. A quarter of the U.S. population. Stand back and look at people waiting online and at the prescription department in your local pharmacy. They're all standing online, and there's one person up front and the others are standing 4 feet away lest they interfere with that person's privacy. Think of standing online in a bank to speak to a teller. They're all back there and it's only one person over there who's speaking to the teller. The others are all standing back there and cowering behind their iPhones. How sad the streets. No one talks to one another. It seems we are overwhelmed by things, and yet how impoverished we truly are. When I walk down the street, it's rare for a person to say, "Hello, good morning, how are you?" Facebook is a symptom. How bleak, how barren. What a colossal waste of time. No wonder why there is a suicide epidemic. People are becoming increasingly desperate. Tragically enough, millions of Americans, unable to face the moral and spiritual poverty of their lives, find no escape but into drugs. According to Mike Adams, the health ranger, in a shocking study, a shocking study found that 38% of Americans were prescribed. 38% of Americans were prescribed with opioid painkillers in 2015. With millions more Americans on psychiatric drugs, antidepressants, statin drugs, and chemotherapy, it's no exaggeration to say that America is drugged out. A whopping 5% of American adults are currently abusing opioids, and 1% of American adults are chemically addicted to opioids. The number of overdose deaths from pain medications has increased more than 300% since 1999. According to the CDC, 33,000 Americans die each year from opioid drugs. The opioid crisis has been making the headlines, but there is yet another, namely alcoholism. 1 in 8 Americans, or nearly 13% of the population, struggle with alcoholism. 13%. From 2006 to 2010 alone, excessive drinking led to 88,000 deaths, 2.5 million years of potential life lost each year. In addition, excessive alcohol use increases your risk of chronic illness, including heart disease, liver disease, and cancer. Let's look deeper still. We're becoming increasingly polarized. The middle class is fast disappearing. The richest 1%, own 32% of the wealth, whereas the bottom 90%, that's all of us, own something like 21%. Meanwhile, wages throughout this entire 10-year boom have been stagnant more or less for most Americans. An image emerges of America in its 243rd year. Drugged out, inebriated, and beset with senseless violence, with no refuge from the loneliness that's all pervasive. I urge you to get together with brothers and sisters and plant a garden, a victory garden. Get your hands and feet into the earth, into the rich earth that is so forgiving and so life-giving. Fall is the new spring. Grow your winter garden, replete with lettuce and kale and parsley and chard and spinach, of course. It will repay you manyfold. If you live in an apartment, we urge you to join a community garden. And if there's none locally, then go ahead and create a community garden. You can do it. Work there with brothers and sisters. Enrich the soil with more and more organic matter to heal and restore this American earth. Let us go forward, brothers and sisters. We can do it. It's been a privilege speaking with you. Thank you, and bye for now.